conversation. So we are just recording a conversation.
This is the time that I want to let you realize that this is probably a party that you don't want to attend, but you're locked in.
Should we introduce ourselves? We already did the music.
Oh, I'm Amanda.
I'm John.
We're the Hardscape Nerds.
Yeah, because we're escaping so hard right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's have this conversation.
All right.
I was promised.
All right. This conversation brought to you by John and Amanda. Whoops, I stepped away from the mic.
Are you serious? I thought you had something prepared.
You know me, I'm always prepared.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, so...
You're the most unprepared, detailed person I've ever met.
Thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
You're welcome.
I strive to be different.
Well,
actually, I don't even strive.
Mission accomplished.
I wing it. I wing my differences.
Yeah.
So we have Tommy in an excavator and John teaching Tommy how to run an excavator and training. Yeah.
Tommy's our worker. It might not make sense to anybody. It's like, who the heck?
Tommy?
It's Tommy.
You know Tommy.
Yeah.
Everyone is Tommy.
Everyone does.
For real.
T-Bird. Yeah.
I'll go back to the start. This year, John is being more, I don't want to say bold, but you're being, and I don't want to say looser. I'm trying to come up with the right word. Just, you're delegating more in particularly excavation.
Less fearful of things going wrong.
There you go.
Yeah. Wait, am I supposed to say something about it?
I don't know. Do you have anything to say about your less fearfulness?
OLM helped, the Outdoor Living Mastery. Just kind of being around guys that just kind of just get going and get after it. And I knew what we were capable of. I knew what I was capable of, but I've not pushed as hard for our business. But yeah, just seeing, I don't know, it's seeing the what happens when I let somebody else do something. It's frustrating because I don't do this because I like watching people work. I do it because I like to work. But it's also nice that while I'm running loads or I'm doing whatever, and work's actually getting done without me. So it's a long time in the making to delegate this stuff. And yeah, it's nice that it's finally happening. The reason it has happened in the past, but just not maybe with the wrong people. That's if someone doesn't have integrity, if they're a moron, that doesn't help anything. And I don't know. It just we got a good fit now. Hopefully he sticks around. But yeah, it just seems like it's a lot easier to do for whatever reason. I think I'm definitely maturing. I don't want to have to do everything myself. Physically, I can't. I'm not old, but I have less time ahead of me than time past. So it's kind of, I need to start thinking about the longer term. I don't know.
Well, I think you've delegated, and it's a lot of the, I'll say groundwork, like the shoveling and handwork and laying block and things like that. But when it comes to running the track loader, haven't had as many people do that. There are like 3 instances I can think where someone else ran that.
Well, one of those times was we were doing a job actually at our house, and
that's the fourth one.
Yeah, I was running the excavator, and I looked over as he was dumping loads across over the hill, and I could see the bottom of the skid steer. So I had to figure out what the heck was going on, and the reason I could see the bottom is because the entire machine was completely standing straight up and down.
I missed that.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I guess I was in the house.
I don't know, but it was 90 degrees from horizontal, and yeah. So that's part of the problem with delegation. I have done it before, and it's a lot of times what happens is you teach them something, then you walk away. I had a breakthrough, I don't know, maybe a few years back, where it was, I used to feel like every time I teach somebody, they would leave me and, go work somewhere else. But I realized what happened was every time I would teach somebody, I would leave them. And meaning I would just show them one time and like, okay, you got it. I'm going to go work in the office, and just leave them on their own and not give much more guidance. Well, that I feel like they were just unprepared and not ready to handle anything. And I think that was pretty negative. It was definitely a problem. And so that was a pretty big breakthrough to realize that I'm training people barely instead of actually making sure that they can do it, and constantly teaching. And I'm enjoying teaching more than I am actually doing the work.
And that wasn't the case before. I feel like teaching seemed like it was frustrating. It was a burden just because it keeps production, or it hinders production on a certain level.
It does, and that's the problem with it's tough, and that's a nice thing about having such a small crew right now, that there is time to train. I guess there's not, but I'm slowing down. But the funny thing is, I'm slowing down, and I'm just realizing how much more slowing down to teach is exponentially increasing our output. We're getting stuff done way faster than we would have in the past, and it's because I spent some time, and then as things come up, I'll keep giving more and more information and stuff, and just I'm realizing the training's an ongoing process and not just like a set it and forget it type thing.
Yeah, but I think, though, to go back to touch upon that, and I'm going to steal, was it Mike Michalowicz or Michael Gerber, or both, that it's a throttle, not a switch.
That would be Mike Motorbike at Michalowicz.
Okay. So...
And that was through a discussion that he had with Michael Gerber.
Okay.
Yeah, and Michael Gerber told him to get lost as a joke, but not quite that language. It was a little more colorful, but yeah. And that's a perfect example of the E-Myth. I love that book, absolutely love it. But when you read it, it's like, man, I need to just work on the business. And for anyone who doesn't know, that he's kind of I feel like the person that came up with working on the business, not in it. The E-Myth is short for the entrepreneurial myth. It has nothing to do with electronics or anything like that. This book was around, 30 some years ago. I don't know, before eBay was around and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know where I'm going. I just completely lost my train of thought. That's
all right. We'll bring it back on the tracks.
Yeah.
So with the delegation, and you're not alone in that. So Mike Motorbike said you need to make a throttle, not a switch. So it's, start out with, you're doing 90%, you're doing 100%, and then you bring someone on, and then maybe you're doing 90%, and then 80, and so forth. But switching from a field or technician to more of a business owner role, and you're teaching and training others. So with that. But Michael Gerber, he was the one, wasn't he, that he laid out that whole story. It was a real scenario with the girl, Sarah.
Yeah.
And what goes on with business owners. And it's not unique to basically you're doing everything, you're wearing all the hats, and you're just so excited to have somebody else that's capable of doing something that you get them set up, and then you're trying to put out other fires somewhere else. And then you feel like because things aren't to your standard or to your expectations that you have to rein it back in and get small and start over from square one.
Yeah.
How'd I do?
I would say that's, I'm just realizing that now that entire story with Sarah, and she, in the book, she bakes pies and runs a pie business, but she hires somebody and she does the same thing that I just kind of admitted to, basically training them and then leaving them, letting that person handle everything, and then kind of not actually creating a system for the person to thrive in.
Mm-hmm. So I think what's helped, just age, experience, being parents, it's there are a lot of parallels to that in your role as a parent, or anyone's role as a parent, not you specifically, but just what you have to do to teach them. And you can't just teach them once. It's ongoing. I know myself with children, I do that. I'll get impatient because I've shown them how to do something, or we talk about what to do, and sometimes it feels like every morning we're starting all over again. Have you guys ever gotten dressed? Have you ever packed your lunch? But they do a lot of things on their own when I stop and think about it. They're just not completely independent, but they're not going to be until they actually leave. With an employee, there's always going to be, well, I guess with children too, even if they technically leave the house, you're always there as a backup support. You always check in, and
You're always their parent.
Yeah.
And in a functional relationship, you're always somebody they can go to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I lost my train of thought again. Rough day.
But
that is a good. I think that's probably the biggest thing that my life experience is, just basically becoming a parent, is realizing that the children are kind of like employees in that regard, where you have to train them, otherwise they're not going to do anything for themselves. And you have to look at it, or I'm looking at it and saying, do I really want to be getting snacks, as a parent? And no, teach them how to get snacks. Do I really want to be the only person who can run the excavator? It's not fun anymore. I don't enjoy being the only guy who can do so many things, and it's a lot of pressure, and it makes things miserable. And the frustrating thing for the workers is they want to learn more. They want to do more. They don't want to just sit there and basically, no one wants to be an apprentice for 5 years.
Yeah.
So I've been doing workers a disservice from just for years. Sometimes we've had the wrong people that were just, it was not possible, and you have to make sure
that's a hiring. Yeah, that's a
hiring, staffing, yeah, and keeping them on board. To, I forget who said it, but like, would you hire this person again today? And if the answer is no, then why are you keeping them?
Yeah.
We
used to have conversations when they show up, they do good work, or if they show up. But if you have to say when or if, it's not consistent. You can't rely on them. It's really tough to build upon that.
Exactly. No one's perfect, but that doesn't mean that, like, yeah, if you're not sure if a guy's going to make it to work, like, it's just like, well, I wonder if he or she's gonna show up today. It's like, we've been through that, and it's time to just kind of cut the cord and get somebody who shows up and is consistent. And
yeah,
that's consistency is a huge thing, and it's really rough, especially with what we do, working outside, and the weather. It goes from, we're working in 30 degrees up to 100 degrees, and
sometimes over the course of 24 to 48 hours.
yeah, not quite that extreme, but it's not far from it. I mean, it was 40 degrees last week, and it's 85 degrees this week, so it's pretty rough. Pretty rough transitions, but so no one's exactly consistent, but it's just you just look at it as equipment. Do you really want that truck that you turn the key and you're just not even sure it's even going to start today?
Yeah, how do you build your business on that?
Yeah, it's time to get a new truck, or maybe a new mechanic. So, yeah.
But I mean, just like, use Tommy as an example, just because he's the example we have. But show him something, and he goes slow and steady, and obviously with confidence, some speed comes, but he's not being reckless with anything. John was behind the wheel, running loads. You ran the machine sometimes, but by and large, it was him running the excavator, and close to someone's house, trying to be precise with things. He had the cleanest, nicest looking excavated hillside that I've ever seen.
I've never seen anything that it was exquisite, and just, it looked like someone drew a line and just like cut the dirt with a butter knife. It was just straight up and down. Yeah. I don't have the patience for it, so it was very impressive to see what can be done. So
yeah,
I'm more focused on speed. There needs to be some focus on speed for sure, but it was very interesting very exciting to see that.
Yeah,
that quick. I mean, he's only been on it for, he probably doesn't even. This is probably his first full day on the machine. And he was keeping up with me, and the dump site was pretty close. It was only like 13 minutes away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was pretty impressive. And the best part was I didn't have to do any of it.
And he was so... he's following your lead. So he measured, and he's like, okay, I need to go back 2 inches, 3 inches here or there. So he was conscientious about that. And you are a stickler for that. Okay, we need to go back 4 foot. We need to go 4 foot. It's not 3 foot, 10 inches, or, cutting that out, or cutting a corner, I should say. So, I think he did really well. We can go back to March. He was running the track loader on his first job. Mm-hmm. And it was a busy city street. You guys had how many cars coming by every hour? Probably at least like 20 cars an hour.
Wow, more than 20 an hour.
I don't know. It was a lot.
There was probably at least a car a minute on average. I would, man.
And sometimes a parade, I guess.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I would say that there was at least average at least a car a minute. Probably, no, there was more than that. Because by the time I would load the truck, and I'm not slow, and I would look, there would be cars waiting in both directions, like waiting to let me pass for me to move. So, yeah, it was, I'd say it's a couple hundred cars an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was intense.
And that was his first time running the track loader on a job, on a busy city street, having to look both ways with every scoop to put it across the street. And he did really well. And you guys worked together as a team really well, where you were running the excavator. Now there were low power lines that you were watching out for them and making sure you didn't hit them, that we didn't want to put them in that position to have there's another variable to look at that point.
Yeah, the best part about that was, like, we needed to load the truck. We needed to pile stuff up across the street. So we had to fight the traffic constantly. And so I could be digging with the excavator, and normally I would just switch machines. I would just pile stuff up with the excavator and then move it over with the track loader. But stuff was getting moved without me having to do it. So
Yeah.
yes, it was taking him longer. I would have been slightly more aggressive, kind of forcing my way into traffic, but he was taking his time, and it happened without me doing it. So that's always big. Yeah. So, and it just, and as far as like the training for the machines, I prefer to train on a track loader skid steer type machine first. If you have a dingo or something, that's even better. And then go to the excavator. I always say that the excavator is like 3-dimensional compared to a track loader, because you have the arm that you really have to watch out for, and there's a lot more variables to get into. But
Yeah.
the functionalities, if you can run it, you can run both. So, and I think that's another thing with a lot of these guys. They play video games all the time. So, I mean, he's younger. Like anybody who's in their 20s has been playing video games for the most part. So the dexterity's there, and
It's a real life video game.
yeah, they understand how to adapt quick. So
It seems like that progression's been working.
Proverbs 14:23, in all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. Let's stop talking and make something happen. Thank you both for listening. Be sure to share this with your in-laws, your outlaws, that friend who doesn't appreciate personal space. They sure won't bother you anymore.